Today we will talk about Job. He is one of the most puzzling people in the Old Testament. Some consider the book fiction, but I take the view he was a real person since God mentions him in Ezekiel 14:14 together with Noah and Daniel. The book that bears his name is considered by many scholars the oldest book in the Bible. Yet we know so little about Job. Who was he? Where did he live? When did he live? Who were his parents? There are many details that we don't know about the book. Yet, looking at the book, I think if we read it appropriately, we can find many things that can help us learn more about his identity. When Job expresses his desire to have died after all the trials he experienced, he states that he would have rested with kings and counselors of the earth, or with princes who had gold. Job 3:13-15. The ancient people believed that in Sheol, each person rested together with the members of the social class they were born in. Based on this pattern, Job was part of the royal elite because he believes he would be resting together with kings and counselors. The same idea is found in Egyptian religion. If in this life you were a worker, in the afterlife you would be a worker. If you are a tradesmith in the afterlife, you would be a tradesmith. If you are a vizier to the pharaoh, in the afterlife you would be a vizier to the pharaoh. That means you would be living your afterlife in the same social class. Job 1:3 tells us he owns 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and many slaves. Those are specific and astounding numbers. Camels were used for trading. They were the trucks of the antiquity. This might be a clue to the fact that Job lived somewhere close to an important commercial route, given the number of camels he owned. He is called, because of his riches, the greatest of all the people in the East. He was, before losing everything, the richest of the Easterners, or the Kedemites. The Kedemites lived to the east of Canaan. Kedem means east in Hebrew. They were the other sons of Abraham, which he sent off to the east of Canaan according to Genesis 25:6. These were the Midianites, the Ishmaelites, and other less known descendants. Among them were the descendants of Lot as well, the Moabites and the Ammonites, because Lot has the status of an adopted son of Abraham. Esau, Isaac's other son, also moved to that area, and his descendants were part of the Kedemites. On the eastern side of Canaan was the King's Highway, which God split when it reached the Gulf of Aqaba. It was the alternative to Via Maris, which connected Mesopotamia and Egypt. Job 1:1 tells us he lived in the land of Uz. We wouldn't know the location of this land were it not for Lamentations 4:21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, you who dwell in the land of Uz. Okay, so now we have an idea about where Uz was. Edom was in the land of Uz. In fact, we find the name Uz in the list of the Horites with whom the Edomites intermarried and eventually took over the country. Genesis 36:28. This is a very important detail that clarifies what Uz refers to, namely Edom. We also have specific geographic markers in the book like Jordan and metal mines. That means these markers were supposed to be in the proximity of the land of Uz. Edom fits these criteria as Edom was not far from Jordan and it was known for the mines it had around Timnah. The names of his friends are also important clues. Shuach is a name found among the genealogy of the eastern sons of Abraham. There was a connection all the Kedemites shared together. They share the same language, same blood, a similar culture and religion at least for a few centuries after Abraham. A very important name is Eliphaz. We only find this name in the Edomite Toledot genealogy of Genesis 36. He is from Teman, an important Edomite city. Genesis 36:15 specifies that Teman was the son of Eliphaz, the firstborn of Esau. Job is wisdom literature. The Edomites were famous for their wisdom. After all, we have Edomite wisdom preserved in the book of Proverbs. Obadiah 1:8 says, "In that day, declares the Lord, will I not destroy the wise men of Edom, those of understanding in the mountains of Esau?" Jeremiah 49:7 states, "Concerning Edom, thus says the Lord of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Has counsel perished from the prudent? Has their wisdom vanished?" 1 Kings 4:30 finds Solomon wiser than all the sons of the east and the wisdom of Egypt. We can see from all of these references that the Edomites were well known for their sages. Job's age is one of the arguments used against the idea that he was an Edomite. He lived 140 years after his trials, according to Job 42:16. Given that he had 10 children old enough to host parties in their own houses, he was at least 70 years old when his suffering happened. In fact, the Septuagint says he was 70 years old when his suffering took place, and he lived 170 years after it. That means about 210 years according to the Masoretic text, or 240 years according to the Septuagint. Abraham lived 175, Isaac 180, and Jacob 147. The conclusion would be that given his age, Job lived before Abraham. But there is one major detail many forget. Job 42:10 says that God doubled everything he owned before his suffering. The author takes time to be very specific about the doubling of Job's belongings. One could say that God didn't double the number of his children, but the text specifies that he was able to see his descendants to the 4th generation. Job 42:16. That is even more than the doubling of his children. Obviously, if you count them, it would be more than double for clear reasons. The epilogue of the book implies God also doubled the length of his life. Therefore, given this important detail, his age is not an impediment to his Edomite identity. Were we to have these years, that would be 105 according to the Masoretic text, or 120 according to the Septuagint. That would place Job's death during the generations of Moses, who lived 120, or Joshua, who lived 110. This explains how the book of Job, Edomite wisdom, made it to the Old Testament. Putting all the information together from the Masoretic text of Job, we see that he was a very rich royal Edomite who, because God doubled the length of his life, overlapped the generation of Moses and possibly Joshua. In the next video, we will look at the Septuagint version of the text where we have important information absent from the Masoretic text, so stay tuned.